This is Forum and Friends. Our main pilot, John Lachlan, is having some internet issues, so he will join when he's ready. This is on behalf of the Forum for Democracy International. Peter Lavelle joining from Moscow. Stefan Korte, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, from somewhere in Germany, and I'm in South Africa. Welcome, gentlemen.
Stefan, you're muted.
From somewhere in
Hello,
Germany.
everybody. I think I have a little bit of
Welcome, gentlemen.
an issue
Stefan,
here.
you're muted.
Okay, yes. All right. There's a serious echo issue there. Vincent, you might need to put on echo cancellation for Stefan. Okay, yes. All right. There's a serious echo issue there. Vincent, you might need to put on echo cancellation for Stefan. Okay, yes. All right. Otherwise, it gets very complicated when we're hearing ourselves multiple times.
Unfortunately, I think I have.
Otherwise, it gets very complicated when we're hearing ourselves multiple times.
Yeah, I had this once again already, and I think.
All right. Well, for now, could you mute yourself, Stefan, so that we don't get that echo coming through? And then I think Vincent will see if he can do something there behind the scenes. In the meantime, Peter, mute yourself, Stefan, so that would you mind introducing what we're talking about? Oh, now you're also muted.
Okay, now we have the title is.
Yes, we're starting this off with a bang.
Okay. All right. The topic at hand is U-turn for Europe, which opens up many possibilities. Stefan, here, this is a graphic we have here. U-turn, is that a good thing or a bad thing, Stefan? Because presumably you get to a place from where you. Is that a good thing or a bad? Okay. I think we have a lot of sound problems here. Okay, it seems like it's calmed down now. So let me reiterate here. I mean, the topic at hand is U-turn for Europe. What does that mean to you, Stefan? U-turn for Europe. Calm down now. So let me reiterate here. I mean, the topic at hand.
No. Wait. This echo is too bad. I don't think we can go any further until we can figure this out. All right, Stefan, I think just have a look to see if you've got an echo cancellation option in front of you, because that'll make a big difference. All right, Stefan, I think just have a look.
I'm already checking.
An echo cancellation option in front of you, because that'll make a big difference. All right, Stefan, I think just have a look.
I'm already checking.
An echo cancellation option in front of you, because that'll make a big difference. All right.
All right. This happens from time to time, everyone. It is no reflection on the content of our conversation or how much we esteem our guest here. But look at my age. I'm not the most technical person here. I usually just hit a link and it works. Okay.
The problem, Peter, is that you can't trust anybody in a bow tie.
Well, I think have we broken the spell?
No, I think what Stefan needs is earphones or AirPods or something, because there's a constant loop. So what's happening is that our sound is coming through his speakers, and then his speakers are going through his microphone, and then it's going back through the speaker. So it's doing this sort of infinite loop. His microphone, and then it's going back through the speaker. So it's doing this sort of infinite loop. Yeah, so it's not something that we can continue with, unfortunately, unless it can be solved. So it's doing this sort of infinite loop.
Well,
so it's not.
All right, gentlemen, I think that I suggest I apologize to our viewers. We have usually had good luck with this, but the gremlins got the best of us, and I think to save grace here, I think we should reconvene at another time. Germ, do you agree with that?
I think we solved the problem.
Oh, okay, that might be good news.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yes, I don't hear the echo.
All righty.
And I see John has joined us.
Okay.
Oh, perfect timing, isn't it?
Here we go. All right, everybody. For the last 5 minutes and 15 seconds, we profusely apologize. Oh, John is giving a nod here. You don't hear us?
Terrible. Have you started?
No, we've been trying to fight gremlins.
I expect there's a lot of background noise. I'm not sure whether you can hear it.
It works.
It works. It
Okay.
works.
Okay, let's go to ground zero. I introduced you, John Laughlin. Go, John. Start from the beginning.
Okay, we're live, are we? Okay, hi everyone. I'm John Laughlin. I'm the director of Forum for Democracy International. Welcome to this week's forum. Stefan Korte joins us this week from Brandenburg in Germany. Stefan is a long-time worker, a long-time collaborator with the Alternative für Deutschland, the AfD political party. He writes and thinks about political affairs in an extremely intelligent way. We've just published on fvdinternational.com his latest article on the 28-point peace plan, Trump's peace plan, a subject that we discussed on this very show, this forum last week with Ian Proud. And I encourage all our viewers to look at it, to look at his piece, because it's one of the most interesting takes on the peace plan that I've seen so far. Stefan argues in that article that the important point about the peace plan is not whether this or that territory is going to be recognized or not recognized. Instead, the United States of America under Trump is practicing a policy of violent wealth extraction from its colonies, from its allies, and in particular, in this case, of course, from Europe. It's essentially walking away from the Ukraine war and leaving Europe to pick up the bill while signing commercial deals with Ukraine in order to get a lot of money out of that country. But that's not the subject that we're mainly going to talk about today, Stefan. Instead, I've asked you onto the show to talk about the project you've launched called U-Turn for Europe. You and I met recently in Austria, and you told me about your project, and it sounded absolutely fascinating. You believe, as I do, and as Thierry Baudet does, the leader of Forum for Democracy, that political change cannot come about through politics. Instead, culture, civilization, many things that are beyond the reach of politics are essential if Europe is ever to bring about a U-turn. Is that what you think as well, Stefan? And if so, how do we go about achieving it? Over to you.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for this kind introduction. I'm very flattered. And indeed, I think this is exactly the point. I mean, I've been with the AfD for about 10 years now, almost 10 years. I've been working in the federal parliament. I've been an elected council member, district council, and city council. That's correct. And so I've been going through many election campaigns and so on and so forth. So I think, politically speaking, I have quite some experience, so to say. But I came to the conclusion, because when you do a lot of election campaigns, you talk, you speak with the people, you interact with them, and if you listen carefully, you have a lot of information you can process. And my result was actually that we can speak with angels' tongues, and we can be the smartest political speakers on this planet, but we will not reach the critical mass we need to make a change. And because we are just talking with the logic or with rationality towards the people. And I think what we need is to talk with them through the heart, because the emotions are essential. Because from my personal experience, I think the people are detached from their roots, they are scared of their own identity, particularly in Germany, but I've seen it in other places as well. And this is why I think we have to have a different approach. And the approach my idea is the approach supposed to be through culture, to show the people again what an immense amount of cultural heritage we have, and we can be proud on, and we should be proud on, and so that we reconnect them, so to speak, with what is really essential, and that might give us the critical mass that we need to start to make change in politics.
Well, Stefan, can you give us an example of what you mean by using culture? because I would agree with you, and I think it's a long-standing theme of this podcast, is that our politics, our political lexicon is so bankrupt, and words don't mean anything anymore. Okay, far right, far left. I don't know what any of this means anymore, and I turn off when I hear it. So if there's a different segue, culture is one of them. I intuitively like what you're saying, because I don't like politics, because politics doesn't solve anything anymore.
Neither do I. So, yeah. Well, from my personal point of view, culture is identity. It's our heritage, and we're talking about art. We are talking about music, about literature, about philosophy, and all the things. And I think there's no continent, no civilization on this planet that has such an huge amount of, I call it ammunition in that regard, that we can use to bring people back to their roots. And this, for example, we do with what we are planning is a musical play. We called it Ode to Europe, and we show people in this Ode to Europe what kind of marvelous history and heritage we have, like Bach, Mozart, Goethe, Schiller, Shakespeare, Dante, and all these people. And we give them we give them musical inspiration, but we also give them lyrical inspiration, and of course with a certain amount of background pictures, and we make it let's say emotional, because I think what people need in these days is this reattachment, because when as you said, what is politics? Politics is just talking about facts or figures or fiction, and mostly people do believe that politicians are just simply liars, because most of the time it is like that. And but what is true? Culture, heritage, our cultural heritage, that is true. Mozart wasn't lying when he was composing his material. Goethe wasn't lying when he wrote his lyrics. When he wrote Faust, he picked some things out of our society and explained it in Faust, and made it visible or readable for the people.
Okay,
and I think this is, yes, of course.
Sorry, so you're speaking about times gone by. You sort of harking back to a particular sort of classical, beautiful era. If the title is U-turn, where would that turn be pointing to?
Towards our cultural heritage, of course. I mean, it is not about.
Sorry. So, but hold on. That's a very broad statement. I'm trying to be a bit more specific.
Well, from my point of view, I think.
I suppose what Jerm is trying to say is that. Maybe it's easy to say, but what does it really mean? If culture can bring us together, okay? And I think that's really important. When I was listening to your answer, I was just thinking of young people all across Europe. They're not getting any of this from TikTok and other things like that. How do you do that? Because I think Jerm's question is germane, if I can say that, because all of the cultural themes that you mentioned make me very happy. It's something that it gives me energy, it gives me hope, and it's Peter, a metaphysical. That's what we lost, our metaphysics.
But Peter, so another way of asking the question, I guess, is then what does it mean to be European?
Yeah.
Well, I guess that first of all, we have our national identity. And I think this is very essential. I think it would be an unwise idea to just transform us all into Europeans, because this is what the European Union actually is trying to do. So we're supposed to be any kind of gray, homogeneous mass. And one day we're supposed to be the United States of Europe, which is complete nonsense from my personal point of view. But we can see us first of all, as Germans, as British, as Italians, as French, and so on and so forth. But then, and of course, this is very important to be proud of your own heritage, of your cultural heritage. But then on top of that, I think we can all agree that we have our common issues. We all have a lack. We all lose our cultural connection. We all have lost values and virtues all over Europe. Doesn't matter which country we're talking about. And then these are our common problems, and that's where we start, or where I think we can start to call ourselves. Of course, we are a European movement, yeah. Because when I let's call it founded something like that or invented that idea, it doesn't mean that I'm supposed to be that everything's supposed to come from Germany, yeah. But I think if we really want to make a change in Europe, we have to do it as Europeans. So that's the reason why our project, the founders are coming from Austria, they're coming from Lithuania, they are coming from the United Kingdom, and so on and so forth. And so that means we really have a common goal, and the common goal is to really, let's say, how do you say that in English? To reestablish our connection with first of all, our national history, our national cultures. But then again, of course, Mozart is not Austrian. Mozart is something where you say, okay, it is European. It has a European musical. It is a musical heritage, and that's why I think it is not so necessary to define. Okay, this is German. This is Austrian. Especially in that regard, it is rather complicated to differ. But then again, we all come together to protect our European cultural heritage, and this is important because otherwise we're going to disappear.
Another important, when I think of you, okay, coming from being born in America, brought up there, I can. What you say really resonates to me because I love Mozart, Shakespeare, and all that. You don't necessarily country base it, so I think your thesis is very powerful. But what about Christianity? Because that's a very key issue of the European identity, and I see that across the board, essentially, with very few exceptions, talking about Christianity in the public space is very much looked down upon.
But can I add to that quickly, Peter? And I know that this one, everyone tiptoes around. It's a bit of a minefield. But to add to that European identity historically is also to be white.
Yes, indeed. To preserve our ethnic identity is also something that we are talking about, and we are not afraid to talk about it because I think there's no. You don't have to be ashamed of being white. Neither you have to be ashamed of being black or being yellow or being purple or whatever. That is the point. I mean, we are the ones that are always being blamed as being not tolerant enough, not woke enough, or something like that. And I think this is absolute nonsense because when you see the history, or when you take a closer look, I think we've never had any kind of problems with different races. They were moving through Europe for centuries. But the question is, it's not the question, but it is a fact that they were all, as you just said, Peter, they were Christians most of the time, and they were like us. And that brings me back to your question. I think Christianity is one of the major things that we have to revive. But for that, I think we have to be very clear that the church has nothing to do in politics, and that is one of my problems I have with the church in Germany, because they believe that They can make political announcements like the AfD is bad, and we are all Nazis, and we are all racist, and this and that. And that's the reason why I left the church. That doesn't mean that I'm not a Christian, but I can't support this church in particular with my taxpayers' money, and I don't want to do that because I think that's our history. That religion has nothing to do with politics whatsoever.
So, Stefan, an observation that I made recently is I spent nearly a month traveling across China, and it was very eye-opening on so many cultural levels, not just geopolitical. And one thing that is very apparent is they are not afraid of their identity at all. Right? You don't like it, you don't have to go there. It's that simple. And for some reason, if you're European, you have to tiptoe and you have to walk through a minefield. And that is I don't know where that has come from. It's definitely not organic, in my view. It must be artificially done.
It is artificially done.
I think we know where it came from.
Well, I mean, I'm not afraid to say things like
that.
Hang on,
I want to back up what Jerm just had to say, because I think it's really important. Because when you're talking about China, you're talking about Han civilization. It's very proud, it has very rich history, and they don't make any excuses. I live in Russia, and the same thing applies. This is Russian civilization. It's not a nation state. It's not a nation. It's a civilization, and it's unapologetic. Okay. The West apologizes for just about everything, okay? And that's why it's weak, and that's why it's dying.
Yes, but I mean, maybe a little anecdote. First time I've been at the Traditional Britain group, and I had my first speech there. There was a gentleman who asked me afterwards, where is the German spirit? Well, I said, wasn't it you? I mean, not you in particular, but the Brits who took it away from us, who wanted to take it away from us, and now you're asking for it. That's a strange one. And of course, that was. I mean, I'm not blaming the whole re-education process of the Allied forces after the Second World War for what is happening in Europe, but I'm blaming especially the '68 movement. Of course, this leftist movement. That really changed our educational system. That changed the way universities is taught, or how do you say that things are getting taught in universities, and that brings us back to art. That brings us back to culture. That brings us back to all these things that you can learn in a university. But when you do that, you're supposed to be left. You're supposed to be a leftist, because otherwise you really have a bad time while studying. And that is another thing, and that's another key factor that I say that has to change. Like church has nothing to do with politics. Politics should not have anything to do with art, with cultural identity, and with all these things that are supposed to be neutral. Because why do you want to, I say, manipulate someone into the left direction just because he wants to study art or to study music, and so on and so forth? And there are several universities in Germany where it's really, really harsh. The situation is really that bad that if you have to be a leftist, and otherwise you can't study that. And I don't know what this has to do with democracy.
So I am speaking to you from the university where I teach in the west of France, which I believe to be the only conservative university in Europe. And certainly the only conservative political science faculty. I'm sorry, I'm sitting in the central hall and there's a Christmas party going on, so probably there's a lot of background noise. But
sound is good.
but I just want to put that on the record. Also in the context of our discussion, Stefan, about culture, because the man who founded this university, it's a small private university, 2,000 students, 30 years ago. He also founded a cultural event not far from here. It's about 20 minutes or half an hour's drive from here. You may have heard of it, the Puy du Fou, which is the biggest theme park in Europe, apart from Disneyland. Disneyland was given a large amount of land by the then French government, and this Puy du Fou is a completely private venture. The founder of it is himself a conservative, a cultural conservative. He was also a politician. He ran for president, for example, at one point. But he, like us, understands that culture is, that politics is downstream of culture. And this Puy du Fou theme park is, as I say, one of the most successful theme parks in Europe. It has well over 1 million visitors a year. The main spectacle, there are at least half a dozen different spectacles, but the main one takes place in an amphitheatre which seats 15,000 people and tells the history of France through the, particularly through the region, the Vendée region where it's based. So there is this, I'm just telling you this because we do have at least these two things, this little university and this extraordinary theme park, which are now several decades old and which are functioning exactly in the way that you're talking about, Stefan. But I just wanted to come back to the point that Germ raised about the origins. You said, Stefan, it's the 1968 movement. Yes, but I think you were righter in your earlier remark about the British and about the destruction of the German spirit after the war. But in fact, it wasn't so much the British. I'm not trying to get the British off the hook. It was instead, as I'm sure you know better than I do, German Jews, most of them from the Frankfurt School, who, having been Marxists in the 30s, then of course left Germany for obvious reasons from 1933 onwards and set themselves up in the States, and were then used, as you know this story perfectly, by the Allies and particularly by the Americans to denazify Germany. And that denazification involves, as you also know, destroying all kinds of natural things like the family structures, admiration for our history, for our national history, and so on. And so when I'm listening to you, I think that the challenge for Germany, I mean, most European countries came out of the Second World War with their national identity damaged, and there are two exceptions to this rule. For obvious reasons, in the German case, because they suffered absolutely total defeat, unconditional surrender. In the case of other countries like France, they were, of course, occupied and defeated and then occupied. So in all these countries, the national identity was severely damaged, if not completely destroyed. But there are two countries where that's not true, and those two countries are Britain and Russia. The British national identity was not damaged in the Second World War. Instead, it was reinforced. Reinforced because we were alone. The British were alone for a year after the fall of France until the attack on the Soviet Union, and the Russians obviously because after the 1941 invasion, Stalin pulled out all the stops of nationalism, including, by the way, Christianity, in order to give support to the war effort. So I suppose what I'm asking you is this difficulty, which is indeed European, you're quite right, because although I've mentioned Britain as an exception, Britain, of course, is also severely degraded. But surely the challenge for Germany is even greater than for the rest of us. And is it not, in addition to the cultural things you've mentioned, Stefan, is it not also about history? Because history is an important source of national identity. I've probably spoken for too long.
No, of course. I mean, you're absolutely correct. And the problem is, I mean, you mentioned Britain and Russia. Yeah, of course. But then we see, I mean, Russia still today doesn't have the same problems as Britain does. And every time I'm coming back to Britain and then back to London, it's getting worse and worse. And I'm just talking about 6 years. That is really not a long time. But then again, the development is obvious, and we have to go back to our history, and especially in particular for Germany. I think it is important that the German people stop being afraid of themselves. I mean, this is the major issue I'm always observing everywhere. Now there's a secret movement in Germany that is putting German flags everywhere, and then suddenly the Secret Service is ordered to check who's the villain, yeah, for putting up German flags where they don't belong. And it's amazing. I mean, in no country in this world you would see something like that, except for Germany, and that says a lot about the German character, the German spirit. But then again, we have a lot of young German people who are going back to their roots, like the third generation of our Muslim people here. Because first generation still had a lot of respect towards German people, the second generation less, and now the third generation is really turning absolutely. They also do the U-turn, but back to their cultural roots, which is of course even more dangerous for us because they are living here and they want to establish their cultural identity up on ours, and we shouldn't accept that.
Stefan,
would you say, Stefan, that German national identity is better promoted through Germany's component states rather than through the German Federal Republic and the German nation state as a whole? I ask that having just been in Dresden. I don't know Saxony well at all. I mainly know Bavaria. But my God, what a glorious history Saxony has. Absolutely spectacular. Is that maybe the key for the specific German question?
I mean, you're talking about the provincial political parliaments. Of course, I mean...
No, I'm talking about the historic states, which now have a sort of ghostly semi-existence as federated states of the Federal Republic. But Saxony is a kingdom with 1,000 years of history, as great as that of any normal European nation state. And is that maybe the key to getting round this difficulty of recreating a German national identity?
Well, going back to the roots might be a solution, but I think you don't have to go back that far, especially not in the regard of Germany, because Germany is it was, I mean, like the Holy Roman Empire and all the little pieces of land. I don't get the English word now.
Like statelets and kingdoms, yeah, right.
Yeah, and all these things. And it was, of course, really difficult to get all of them under one hat. But then here we are. Bismarck changed all of this, and suddenly we had a German Empire. And I think what is really essential is just to bring back the idea that you don't have to be afraid to be German. That's all. I mean, I'm wearing my flag, and I wear it proudly, and I wear it wherever I go, because I think there's nothing to be ashamed of. And I think Gauland, one of our honorable leaders of our party, he once said that German history is far larger than 12 years, than these 12 years. And that's the reason why I think, okay, yes, of course, certain things happen which you definitely can't be proud of, and which shouldn't have happened. But then again, history is also always written by the victorious. And then again, that means a lot. And if you take a look at the history of the First World War, where they once claimed that it was Germany's fault, and suddenly foreign historians come up and say, no, it wasn't. It wasn't. And it took quite some time until even in Germany, the people figured out, yeah, all right, it wasn't. And up till today, there are people that still don't get that. And that is the task that has to be done to get not really diving deep into provincial history, because that is far too complicated. I mean, what you said, John, I think almost, I mean, like maybe 10-20% of the people in Saxony do know about all of this.
Well, I mean, Stefan, it can happen. I mean, in the United States, if you're from you're an American and you're from California, you say, I'm Californian. Okay. And New Yorkers say, I'm a New Yorker. Okay. And that can happen. But, you know, Stefan, the real problem from an outsider looking in is that who controls what it means to be European? Because when I hear von der Leyen, it just turns my stomach. Oh, well, I guess that's European. Okay. That's so negative to me.
Yeah,
okay?
But that's the point. So that's what I wanted to say a moment ago, Peter. So to use the medical analogy of a PCR test, right? A lot of these discussions are about speaking in the sort of false positive aspect. In other words, you're talking about returning to those values or those roots, but it's a criticism, right? As opposed to a positive approach. In other words, actually discuss those aspects of what it means to be those things, rather than the permanent critique. Does that make sense? I don't know if my analogy works.
It's kind of like saying traditional American values, and then the attack is, oh, slavery and Jim Crow. And yes. I would say, no, family structure, obeying the law, taking great pride in one's country's history with all of its flaws. The American character, which when you say that to Americans, it means something. It may mean nothing to you guys, but, you know, that's so un-American, you know, people would say, and that's a positive thing. That's not what we do. We don't have masked men deporting people without due process. That's not American. Okay? And that's what I think about Germany's case, because after the war, you know, you wanted to be good Europeans, not good Germans. Everybody else got to be a good Austrian and a good Frenchman, but no, you had to be European. Okay. And I think that's very, very problematic, because the more you go down that path, the more you lose who you are, and then you lose all kind of power.
Absolutely right. That's the reason why I said it's important to give back the idea of what it means to be German. And you can only get this back, not by political talk, but by giving them and showing them what and how vast our German culture actually is. And I don't see a U-turn for Europe as a criticism on what. I think the only criticism about it is if we see how our societies and everything is actually deteriorating. Where are our values? Where are our virtues what we should supposed to live with, and be good Germans or good French or whatever? Yeah, to be honest, to be punctual, and all these things. And this is exactly.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but maybe my my personal 2 cents. Okay, I really wish the Germans had been good Germans and stood up for peace in Europe, saying what these people are doing on the Maidan in February 2014. That's not us, and we don't support it, because that's not the kind of European we Germans want to be. But no, it went sideways, completely sideways. And then you become part of the problem, not part of the solution.
Peter, I absolutely agree with you. And that's the reason why I wrote a book about this particular subject. Yeah, the European upheaval in Eastern Europe, and from a German point of view. And of course, I'm talking also about Bismarck and his ideas about a German foreign policy. And yeah, I absolutely agree with you. It is, and that's the reason why, I mean, especially if I'm talking about Germany, and when I see what is going on in Germany, I can just simply, I can't stop shaking my head. You know, that what is happening is far beyond any comprehension.
Well, Stefan, and I've told this to John and Germ recently. You know, I've lived in Russia for 27 years, and up until about 3 years ago, Russians liked Europeans. They like going there. They love the culture. But because of the conflict in Ukraine, there's two countries that get singled out, and the Brits just like to be, they always want to be obstructionist in anything when it comes to Russia. So you can kind of push that one to a side. But Germany is getting singled out because of Baerbock 360, Merz, and all of that. I mean,
the bacon of hope. Yeah, I know.
Or let me put it this way: for like 25 years, I never heard a bad word about Germans, and in the last couple of years, you hear it all of the time. Who is this Merz guy? Why does he want to go to war with us? I mean, he talks about that, okay? And what he does is that he brings out the negative caricature of Germans, okay? And if he's European, then who wants that kind of Europe? I mean, these are self-inflicted wounds from an outsider looking in.
I agree with you, and recently I've been at the Minsk Security Conference in Belarus, and I think Durham. I think we were talking about it when nobody else was present at that time. And I've been meeting with a lot of people from Belarus, from Russia, and also talking with quite some important people. And when you listen to the speech of Lukashenko and of Sergei Lavrov, and no one said a bad word towards Western Europe. No one. Everybody was really keen on stabilizing the situation, trying to be in communication, easing up the situation, and so on, because they see themselves, of course, and they are part of Europe. And that was also my approach. This is also my approach in my book, and I didn't hear any bad word towards me.
Yeah, but the point
is the question how you approach these people on eye-to-eye level, and of course with mutual respect. And when you see things like that,
what was expected is Germany and Germans, since we're on the topic, they should have been the mediator. They should have been the calming
I also
force.
Agree with you.
And I Angela Merkel, a very weak politician. Okay, I think history is going to look very badly on her because she watched this happen under her watch, and she should have, with Hollande, which basically a worthless politician, at least together they could have said, "Hey, we got to slow this down because the Poles and the Baltics, they're driving European policy, and it's making everybody else look bad."
Absolutely right. But look at 2015. What happened in 2015? She disobeyed European law. She just simply ignored German law. She just said, everybody can come in. But what I was confused about is that no European leader, not a French, not the British, neither, no one, just said a single word against it. That was really irritating.
Well, my question always is, and I constantly ask it on this podcast, did anybody vote on these things? Was there not a Germany, but was there a German people position?
But that's the point of the EU, Peter. The EU dismantles all of that.
Yes,
you can vote however you like in Europe, but it doesn't change anything. If you vote the wrong way, the election is cancelled. We all know that. Can I bring the conversation back to culture, because we all agree, I'm sure, on this panel about European states and Germany's role and Britain's role and so on in the current war, the current crisis. But Stefan, to what extent is high culture? You've mentioned Mozart and Goethe and Dante and so on. To what extent is high culture the answer? We're trying to find a way of re-establishing national pride in all of our countries, and reality and sensible behavior and traditional values like families and respect for your elders and all the rest of it. We're trying to overcome oikophobia, hatred of the homeland, hatred of one's own homeland. Surely there is in Germany and across Europe plenty of high culture already. Germany has, I don't know how many opera companies in Dresden, in Berlin, in Munich, all over the place. They all pump out German culture, principally. Just as in French concert halls you have more French music than you would have in a German concert hall, Danish composers in a Danish concert hall, and so on. There is quite a lot of cultural nationalism in the respective cultural lives of European states, but that doesn't help. So why do you think that an ode to Europe with, as I say, Beethoven and Schiller and so on, why will that solve the problem that we're all diagnosing?
Because it's pure and original. Because when we see what is really happening in culture, especially in Germany, whenever you go to a German opera house, you and even in Vienna, yeah, where you say, all right, Vienna is the place of culture and it's of heritage. And I have a good friend who is also involved in this project, who plays the violin in the opera there. And even there, the interpretations of original operas, they're awful. Yeah. The musicians, every musician, and he told me directly, he said, I have to play it and I have to endure it, but it has nothing to do with its original. It has nothing to do with culture in its original state. That's why I say, okay, this is one point. But I think that when you listen to Bach, when you read Goethe or Schiller and all these people, and you sang the songs of your forefathers, it changes your mindset. It changes your mindset towards the fact that you will not be easily fooled like the people in these days with they have TikTok and all that nonsense. Yeah. And they listen to, I don't know what they call it. Some people, I call it music. I call it something else, and I don't want to be rude now, but
I call it noise. But
yeah, all right, that is fine with me.
Which music are you referring to?
Well, music, noise. You know,
like Rammstein.
It's also noise, if you ask me.
I was at the Bolshoi. I was at the Philharmonic 2 years ago, and they had Rachmaninoff, and it's my favorite composer. And maybe I should admit this in public, but I have to bring a handkerchief with me because it makes me cry with so much joy listening to it. And I noticed other people, and not just Russians, but Chinese, Indians. It just, you said it was unique. No, it's authentic. That's what's real, and that's what we have. That's part of our cultural capital. And I agree with John's question, the way he framed it. I'm not really sure how we do it, but I know it's powerful. I know it's really, really powerful.
What I'm worried about here is, are we not just a bunch of sort of Luddites, old fogies, just thinking back of the good old days? I mean, are we not dismissing the idea that this is part of modernization also?
No, I think Stefan's answer is dead right. The way that these
Jerm, I'm a Luddite. I'm a Luddite.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Snap. So am I. I think Stefan is dead right. The way that particularly operas are produced is absolutely horrific. You were struggling to avoid saying a bad word, Stefan, a moment ago.
Yeah,
I have a solution. I have a solution for you. I have a solution for you. I apologize
for my poor English because
John, what's the solution?
So the solution is given by an English British conductor in the early 20th century. He was asked what he thought of Stockhausen, the composer, and he said, "I have never played it, but I stepped in some on my way to rehearsal."
All right, that's okay. But I would like to add one more thing also, because we were also talking about a lot about politics and about politicians, and when you and we can also define this and talk about German politicians in particular. I mean, the last 25 years was a disgrace. Um, but these politicians, I think they are hollow. Yeah, they are shallow. There is nothing. There is no proper education that they have. There is no they have no virtues they are really using. Yeah, values not to mention. And what U-Turn for Europe also tries to do is to bring politics and culture back together, because we need educated politicians. We need educated in ethnics. Yeah, if we didn't even talk a single word about ethics, because that's what also Aristotle and Platon and Socrates, they also were talking about this 2,300 years ago. Yeah, but if you can't lead a democracy if you are not ethically on a high standard, and this is all this. I mean, we could actually go on for hours, I think, to talk about all this, but these are all essential points that we are trying to achieve, because we have two pillars on this project. We have one pillar that is culture, that is supposed to be the heart of the movement, but then of course a think tank, yeah, for the common political issues, because we are absolutely convinced that we don't want to be involved in internal affairs of nation states. That is the biggest problem that the European Union has. But we have common problems, like especially our cultural identity, our ethnic identity. Yeah, what Jerem said about being white. Yeah, and if we take a closer look about our demographic development, it looks very bad. Yeah, and these are, of course, also things we have to deal with.
Stefan, would you say that's intentional? Because I remember many years ago when John was on my program, there was a movement like in the 1920s to have intermarriage in Europe to destroy the white people. John and I were talking about this a long time ago.
This is the famous Coudenhove-Kalergi plan.
Exactly, and so this is intentional. I mean, what I see this is transatlantic in many ways, because I mean, all of the incentives for not just German politicians, but all Europeans in general, all of the wrong incentives are presented to them. They want to become part of the hierarchy of the transatlantic superstructure. Okay, so say all the right things. I mean, Annalena Baerbock is president of the United Nations General Assembly. How did that happen, and why? Oh, I know.
Tragic accident.
Part of the nomenclatura that brought her up there, and all of the rest of them do. They have all the wrong incentives, and it's anti-culture. It's against their culture.
Yeah, if you ask me, it is all. And in these days, and if you take a look at our politicians, it's all about ego. It's all about money. It's all about influence. It's about power. But it's not about the people. It's not about the country. It is not about our culture, our virtues, or our heritage. And that is the problem. And this is why we have to change things. That's why we have to make a U-turn back to not the good old days, as Jerem said, but to what made us great.
Okay, but now just quickly, Peter, Stefan, I know that we are running out of time. I'm getting the strong sense that then you will agree with the notion that politics is therefore downstream from culture.
Yes, it is, because
it's very selective. It's very selective as well, because who controls that and determines what the meaning is. And this is where all through the Western world, we have this institutional capture of the left, of these cultural Marxist ideas. John's already mentioned the Frankfurt School. That needs to be broken. That needs to be, the defunding the American universities. A lot of people are all upset. I'm 100% for it, okay? Because that's, that institutional control, politics is, the culture is downstream from politics, but I mean, it's where you grab it and control it and determine where it can go. And I say that we should let the culture flow in a more natural and authentic way, because all the major nations of Europe, all through the West, each has remarkable contributions to make. But no, they're all blobbed together to be European. Well, when I hear it, it's negative. It's not positive at all.
See what's happening in Europe. I mean, Europe is just a shadow of itself, or however you say that in English. But because we are running out of time, I think it is a rather vast and rather complicated project with lots of things to talk about. And that's the reason why we also prepared a website, www.uturnforeurope.com. You can check it out and read tons of stuff. Maybe too much for some people, because it's. But when you really try to approach such a complex issue, when you ask yourself the question, okay, how can we change things for the better? Then you come up with a lot of ideas, and then you bring them together and you put them together, and suddenly you have a whole book of ideas. But
Stefan, is it too late?
Is it too late?
Yeah.
For what? For our talk?
To save Europe. To save Europe.
No,
No, to save Europe.
No, because the European Union.
You asked the wrong person, Peter.
The European Union hates Europeans.
Well,
the European Union hates Europeans.
Yeah, but you see, you asked the wrong person, because some say that I am one of the last typical Prussians. And a Prussian would never say it's too late. I would say, of course we change that thing. Of course. And I'm really convinced we can change the thing, even though we are completely, like money-wise, just a dwarf compared to what they people have in their stock. But I don't care, because we have the right on our side.
Okay, then we can end on this: make Prussia great again. Okay.
Well, I can't say anything back against it. No.
But I think that's an excellent way to end. And indeed, Prussian virtues, Prussian values. Prussia obviously has been wiped off the map, but it has a long tradition.
But not out of the minds.
No. And I think, just to wrap up, I'd like to say that if you're going to have a think tank to deal with politics, I wouldn't downgrade. I'm sure it wasn't your intention, but I wouldn't downgrade politics in the context of the discussion about civilization. Civilization, of course, involves opera and theatre and poetry and music and so on, but it also involves the state, law, manners, virtue. You mentioned Plato and Aristotle, ethics. All these things are part of the fabric of civilization.
We need a new quality of politics.
I remember, yes, yeah, exactly. And they need to be brought in. Civilization is not just about beautiful churches or cathedrals or whatever. It's also about an actual way of life. And that actual way of life existed and was thought about, as you just said, Stefan, for many millennia. And we simply need to bring those thoughts back into the public domain. That's a bit what we do here in this small university. And I'm sure that's what you'll do in your think tank as well. Stefan Korte, thank you so much indeed for joining us. It's been wonderful talking to you.
For having me.
And thank you to my two co-hosts, and sorry for the connection problems earlier. See you next week. Bye.